Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today, I've got another top 5 guns video for you. We're going to be talking about the top 5 most commonly overlooked guns. That's right. Guns that, maybe they're out there, they're somewhat available, but for some reason, people tend to overlook them, whether it's because they don't, see the value in them or they don't even know about them, or, maybe they just haven't discovered how cool they are yet. So this video is meant to sort of shed light on some guns that I feel are criminally overlooked. Whether you're a collector or a shooter, there's going to be something here for everybody. Or if you're just looking for a good gun for home defense, there's definitely some stuff on this list you're going to want to check out. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at Otis Technologies for supporting today's video. Otis has been a long-term supporter of the channel, and a big thanks to them for allowing us to continue to put out this type of content for you. If you're looking for anything related to gun cleaning, they are your go-to people. If some of you have been in the military the last 20 plus years, I know you've seen the little black cleaning kits with the pull-through chamber to muzzle system. That's what Otis is known for. Really great company, but they also have a bunch of other useful tools and, cleaning products and things like that. Also check out Shooter's Choice. They're a great company as well. You can follow the link down in the description box below to check out their stuff and tell them Eric sent you, and a big thanks to our friends at Otis Technologies. Been using their stuff for a long time. Okay, so again, with top 5 guns videos, the guns are never in any specific order. We always just kind of go down the list, but we'll start out with the first one, and we'll go ahead and go with the K31. All right, now it's probably not a mystery that this video would include a K31 service rifle. Now, these guns have gained some popularity over the years. There's been a lot of YouTubers that have put out content and shooting videos and things on the K31. They are a very accurate service rifle from Switzerland. All right, it was adopted in 1931. Okay, hence the name K31. This gun served in the Swiss military from 1931 to 1958. This gun has a beechwood stock, which would indicate that this is a late model, right? They stopped using walnut in the 40s and they switched to beechwood because it was a much more cheaper option for them to use and more available for them. So this is a later K31 with a later date, but these guns are great. It is a straight pull service rifle, feeds from a 6-round magazine. I'm going to pull the magazine out so you can see the action. So the action works on a straight pull mechanism. So it's a bolt action gun that you pull straight back and push forward. There's a cam in the bolt that cams the bolt, very much in the same way that almost like an AR-15 bolt cams, right? So the bolt is a very ingenious bolt mechanism that can allow the gun to be fired from the prone position very easily and keep a very low profile. These guns are very accurate. They have a good 2-stage, 3.5-pound trigger, which is miraculous for a gun made in the era that this gun was made in. From 1931 to 1958, this gun served in Switzerland. Is 7.5 by 55 millimeter is what this gun fires. And these rifles are criminally underappreciated. They're super accurate, oftentimes being sub-minute with good ammunition. Like if you put a scope mount on this thing and dial it in really good and work up a good load for it, these guns will routinely shoot under an inch group for 5 shots, which is miraculous for an old war horse, especially with the original barrels. Even with iron sights, these things deliver the goods. Very accurate rifle. I feel very underappreciated. And they're still priced relatively affordable, okay? And that's the thing. Like, back in the day, the K31 cost 42 Swiss francs to produce. All right, that's what they cost the Swiss government to make, 42 francs. If you take 42 francs from the 30s and you do the math and figure out what the inflation is to bring 42 francs up into the modern era, you're probably looking at a gun that would cost upwards of $3,000 US dollars to make in a modern factory today. So it's not a cheap gun to make, and it wasn't even back in the 1930s. And it's crazy to me how these guns routinely sell for sometimes south of $500. And I consider that to be an extraordinary value for a gun of this quality. And I'm so shocked that the prices on these guns haven't jumped up like crazy yet. And I think it's just because they just are not appreciated as much as they really deserve to be. So that's number one, is the K31. Number two, this is a gun that you may encounter from time to time in shops, and maybe you don't really, you might look these guns over and not really think much of them, but this is cool. This is a Remington Model 8 chambered in 35 Remington. Now, a lot of folks are probably familiar with 35 Remington. Maybe you have an old lever action chambered in 35 Remington. It's a really cool cartridge that can operate in semi-automatic action or in a lever action. 35 Remington generates a nice amount of power. If you look at like the old school 3855 cartridge, 35 Remington kind of falls in that lane a little bit. A lot of these guns were used, in World War One. All right, so some of these were used in World War One. And also, this gun is the gun that was famously used to help gun down Bonnie and Clyde. And of course, they had an aftermarket like 20 round magazine that they used to have for these, that they would issue these guns to guard tower, to the guard towers at the prisons and things like that. So a lot of your prison guards would use the Model 8 with the 20 round magazine and have a semi-auto, basically sniper rifle, to be able to, if someone's trying to escape or whatever. Now, they've used various guns over the years, but at one point the Model 8 was in common use with prison guards as well. It's hard hitting, it's accurate, it's got a fantastic trigger, and you can load this gun with stripper clips. Oddly enough, you can put 35 Remington on stripper clips and load this just like you would a bolt action. Now, imagine World War One. Being a soldier in World War One and being, issued this gun, it was probably a decent amount of firepower to have faster follow-up shots and the same stripper clip loading that you can do with just about anything else. I mean, these guns are ridiculously cool, and I think they're very underappreciated. The 35 Remington, for one, is one heck of a cartridge that is worth a whole video on its own. I'll probably make a video about the 35 Remington and go into more detail on that, because I do have the Model 8 as well as a really nice 1950s Marlin 335 chambered in 35 Remington. So expect a video on that cartridge soon, but I think the Model 8 is a ridiculously cool gun. They're not stupid expensive. You can still get them relatively affordable, especially if you get some of the later models. This is a pre-Model 8 actually, so it is an early Model 8. But you can get variants of these guns still pretty affordable, and I think they're unique, hard-hitting, light to carry, and again, underappreciated. Okay, so moving on to number three. First we had the K31, then the Model 8. Now we're going to talk about the Vigero Mauser. Now, I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot even talking about this Mauser rifle, because this gun is such an underappreciated Mauser rifle, and for some reason, I don't know why, but people just tend to overlook this gun left and right. You can still pick these rifles up for a ridiculously good amount of money. So if you're looking for a Mauser rifle or a Mauser variant that is unique, fun to shoot, and really accurate, and most importantly, not priced stupid, the Vigero is definitely something worth looking at. This is a 1904 Vigero. It's Portuguese, okay? So basically, the short story was that the King of Portugal was really into shooting, sport shooting, and wanted a military rifle that was up to his standards. And they basically set up kind of like a little engineering department and like, hey, let's design an action here. And that's kind of what they did. Like, it was a lot of input from, civilian shooters within the Portuguese government, including the king himself, from what I understand. And yeah, they wanted a gun that could, double as a good target rifle. It could, be a good military rifle. And they didn't want to go with just the plain old, cut and paste Mauser that all the other countries were buying at the time. They kind of wanted something on their own. And, it's got a unique split bridge action with a very large stripper clip thumb notch. It gives you lots of space to load stripper clips. It is a slightly reduced action in size. It's almost an intermediate action. So it's a little bit smaller of an action than a standard K98. The reason that it's a shorter action is because they had to machine the front of the receiver out to clear the nose of the 8mm projectiles. So they would not have to put that cut had the action been as long as a K98 action. So they did a lot to keep this gun compact. The bolt is ridiculously smooth. There is no third locking lug. So this gun only uses 2 locking lugs. Some would consider it not as strong as a K98. But I will tell you, out of all the Mausers I've ever owned, this gun pits the ace. It is ridiculously accurate. I've shot this thing out to 500 yards. And I'm so hung up on how accurate these guns are. They are so fun to shoot. The sights are great. The trigger's great. I can't say enough good things about the Vigero. It's a fantastic rifle. And the fact that this gun is overlooked is an absolute mystery to me, because I think that they are punching way above their weight class, y'all. For the money, it is definitely a great gun to have. Okay? I'm never getting rid of mine. If I get rid of every other Mauser that I ever own, I will never part with my Vigero. That gun I would absolutely feel comfortable defending myself with. If that's all I had, you better believe I know how to use that gun. All right, number 4. We're going to talk about the Robinson XCR. This is a gun that's commonly overlooked quite often. And you can see that this is definitely a hybrid type of rifle that, it takes some notes from the FAL. It takes some notes from the AR-15. It takes some notes from the AK. It has a lot of things going for it in terms of really cool attributes that you're not going to see holistically in a lot of guns. And the engineers over there at Robinson, great bunch of guys. And I'll tell you, we're going to talk about 2 Robinsons today, not just the XCR, but there's our wild card is going to be another Robinson product. And anyway, we'll get to that one in a moment. But this particular gun's really cool, and they sent me this one some time ago, and it is an 18-inch heavy barrel model with a 223 wild chamber. It's a 1-in-8 twist with a stainless barrel. This gun shoots a living daylights out. I have a ACOG mounted on this particular one and a Geisley mount. And I tell you, this rifle is fantastic. They're really accurate. They're very smooth shooting. They have full adjustability for the gas block. So this is a long stroke gas piston operation. And you can see the way that this gun comes apart is kind of unique too. Look, you're kind of getting into that similar type of FAL quality where you just push a button and the upper hinges just like it would with an FAL. So it takes some things from the FAL. It takes some things from the AK. Let's look at this bolt. Yeah, so you can see a long stroke gas piston operation. So that carrier is awfully AK-ish, right? So very, very similar type of arrangement that you're going to see with an AK. But this gun has a lot going for it. It's a very unique setup. Very, very cool. Okay, look at that. Very easy to take care of. You have a left side non-reciprocating charging handle, an ambidextrous safety, ambidextrous magazine release, as well as an ambidextrous bolt stop that can be gotten to from the rear of the trigger well. So a very, very unique and cool gun. It is a little heftier than a SCAR, but not by too much. And honestly, this gun has the heavy barrel, so the bit of heft that this gun has over a SCAR is probably merited primarily from the barrel weight that we went with on this particular one. This would be a really cool setup with a 12.5-inch barrel, maybe something lighter weight. They do pistol versions of this, and they also have an XCR in the 308 category, so you can get a big boy version, okay? Now, I wanted to show this one off because it is a ridiculously cool gun, and I feel like it kind of flies under the radar in this modern world of really interesting auto-loading rifles and things like that. For some reason, the XCR tends to fly under the radar, and I think it's criminal that it does, because it is such a fantastic gun, and I consider it to be one of the best auto-loading rifles available today. They are fantastic, and the guys at Robinson do a really good job. We're going to talk about another Robinson in just a moment. All right, so going on to number 5. This is a gun that I don't physically have in person to show you. But one gun that's along this same vein that also flies under the radar is the Daewoo K2. Now, some of you may remember back in the 90s when they started bringing in some of the Daewoo service rifles. They came in, I think, as the DR200 or the M200, if I remember correctly. So a lot of them came in a sporting configuration with like a thumb hole sporting stock and a fixed muzzle device or some type of machined muzzle device into the muzzle or into the barrel, that sort of thing. You know, all the pre-band or post-band features and things. But they also brought in some K2s that were post-band or pre-band rather, that had all the cool features, right? The proper folding stocks, collapsible stocks, shorter barrels, you know, bayonet lugs, etc., etc. The K2 is a really cool gun, right? So it does come from South Korea, from the Daewoo company, and it's a gun that gets overlooked so freaking often. I think they are ridiculously cool. They are very accurate. What's not to like about a 20-inch barrel? Most of them have 20-inch barrels. They were brought in kind of like the full infantry size configuration. I do believe those guns are also long stroke gas piston operated, so very reliable. They have excellent triggers. They're very lightweight, easy to carry, easy to field. They take AR-15 magazines, so the magazine continuity, very easy with all your existing stuff. Look, the Daewoos are so cool. Don't overlook the K2. It is a fantastic gun, and you can still find them on the used market, and you'd be surprised. Like, they don't always command quite the crazy prices you would think that they would. Okay, so don't overlook the K2. The Daewoo K2 is an awesome freaking rifle, and if you ever have a chance to get one and own it, I can't recommend them enough. They are really fantastic guns. Okay, so today's wild card is a gun that I used to have, but I actually did some horse trading with a friend of mine, but I do want to talk about it because we did do a range video on this particular gun. Today's wild card, number 6, is the Robinson M96 rifle, okay, the Expeditionary rifle. This is a really cool rifle. You're going to be seeing some shots of it. I used to have one, but it is basically a semi-auto copy of the Stoner 63 service rifle. And for a while, Robinson was building these guns. They didn't make a ton of them, and in some of my conversations with them, they had hinted that they may eventually bring production back and start making these rifles again. I hope they do, because they're really fantastic guns. And I tell you, the one that I had with iron sights, it absolutely pitted the ace. Super accurate, a real head turner at the range. They take AR-15 magazines, and they have the ergonomics. Oh my gosh, the ergonomics of the M96 is so perfect for so many things. 20-inch barrel, lots of barrel length, and of course, because of the fast change barrel technology that they use in those guns, it's not that difficult to swap the barrel out for something shorter. So I would love to see an M96 maybe with like a 10.5 or a 12.5 inch barrel, folding stock, right? Some of the early Stoner 63s had these really great folding stocks, right? So I think the M96, although they didn't make as many of them, so it's fair that people maybe don't know about the Stoner or the Robinson M96, same people that made the XCR. It's fair that people don't know about it because they made so few of them compared to some of their other rifles that they make. But the Stoner 63 is such a popular gun, and they're so badass that to me, like, if you could have a semi-auto copy, holy crap, that's a really neat thing to have. And I tell you, every time I took my M96 to the range, people always asked questions about it. They always wanted to shoot it. They always wanted to try it because so few people have actually held a real Stoner 63, much less shot one, that makes the, you know, the idea of having a semi-auto Stoner 63 a pretty attractive thing, okay? So, Robinson, if you're listening, you guys have got to start producing the M96 again. I think people want them. I think there's a market for them. Now, look, y'all, they're not going to be cheap, okay? If they ever do start making this, I might be putting the cart before the horse, but if they start making that Stoner 60 or the M96 again, don't expect them to be cheap, okay? Like, there's a lot of complicated welding required to make those guns, and there's some very specific jigs that have to be built, and it is not an easy gun to make, okay? I mean, look, the bottom line, it is not an easy gun to make. So if they ever do make them, maybe they will, but if they ever do make them, I would expect them, you know, they're going to cost a pretty penny, but I promise if the quality of the newer ones, if they do reissue them, is anywhere near the quality of the M96 that I used to have, I can tell you it'll be worth every penny because the one I have was fantastic. So anyway, That's today's top 5 guns video. Top 5 most underrated, underappreciated guns. Let me know what you think. Is there a gun that didn't make this list that should have been on the list? Let me know. Go in the comment section below. Feel free to drop your commentary. I want to know what your top 5 guns are for ones that you think are underrated and overlooked. So thanks for watching today. Many more videos on the way, and we'll see you soon.